The A1M southbound between junctions 45 and 44 is experiencing issues following a collision, with 2 of 3 lanes currently shut. Expect delays of about 30 minutes. Meanwhile, the M6 slip road to the A14 in Leicestershire is closed following an accident. In West Sussex, the A27 eastbound between the A259 Havant and Chichester West intersection faces an hour's delay due to another mishap. Stay up to date at gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
This is Turner at the age of 17. This is a really special work. I'm delighted that this could be in the exhibition because it's a new discovery. This is Turner's first exhibited oil painting. This was a real milestone in any artist's career. Anyone who wanted to become a painter and a professional painter, a Royal Academician, had to be able to demonstrate that they could paint in oils. It was the most exalted, it was the highest medium for a painter to use. This had been out of view for 150 years. Its discovery a couple of years ago was so exciting, and here it is. And it shows Turner at the age of 17 really laying down some of those hallmarks that would become, the things that we know and love about Turner later on.
It's a magnificent piece. We better go and see an early Constable.
Yes.
Amy, the young Constable, but as we know, Constable makes a slower start than Turner.
Yes, Constable does indeed make a slower start than Turner, but he also makes a self-conscious decision to be different to other landscape artists. Spending so much time in the countryside, in the landscape that he was brought up in, he really wanted to capture the landscape with as much veracity, as much truth, and as much freshness as possible. And so he began a quest of making very small oil sketches, like the one behind me. And in these oil sketches, he used oil paints outdoors, on his knee, responding to the changing clouds, the changing light conditions, and learning to paint quickly and, with as much liveliness as possible. When it came to making a bigger landscape painting for exhibition, he wanted to transport those qualities into those big landscape paintings.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion. My name is Patrick Christies. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, Tuesday the 27th of January, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Well, Sella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, has ended her 30 years as a Conservative. But did she have any nice words for her former party?
When push comes to shove, they go AWOL. No courage, no backbone, no resolve.
Well, it's so long, Suella from the Tories, but how do you feel about Reform taking yet another Conservative from that last failed government into their ranks?
And the Labour rebellion is growing. 50 furious MPs have written to the Prime Minister asking him to reverse the decision to block Andy Burnham standing as an MP.
It's Holocaust Memorial Day, and we will remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who were murdered by the Nazis. But we're also looking at why a growing number of schools in this country are not doing the same.
There seems to be an assumption of racism right from the off, particularly when it's a white police officer and a member of the public from a minority ethnic community.
And a victory for free speech. The High Court rules it was unlawful to suspend the former chair of the Met Police Federation for questioning if the police were institutionally racist. This was comments made on GB News, and Rick Pryor will be joining us soon.
Can hardly make this up. Rwanda is now suing Britain. The East African nation is taking legal action worth up to £50 million after Labour scrapped that deportation deal between the two countries almost within minutes of taking office.
This rhetoric against ICE, comparing them to Nazi Gestapo, Donald Trump's police force, is despicable, it is shameful, and it is precisely what has led to the escalation of tensions in Minneapolis and in other places across the country.
US President Donald Trump removes Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino from Minneapolis after a 37-year-old nurse was fatally shot during an immigration raid. Protests against ICE rage on.
We're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain.
That's the former West Midlands Mayor, Sir Andy Street, he lost his seat last time, who's co-launched the political movement Prosper UK to combat the rise of Reform UK, and the Tory politician joins us soon to tell us why.
And Storm Chandra strikes. Heavy rain and 70-mile-an-hour winds batter Britain as a danger to life alert is issued across the southwest and Northern Ireland.
Beckham's united, but without their son Brooklyn. Victoria has broken her silence on her family a week after her eldest son's social media onslaught against his mum and dad. Andy Street was the mayor of the West Midlands. He lost his seat very narrowly, if you remember. Always in the centre of the party, told me he was horrified when Kemi Badenoch became leader. He set this group up, Miriam, with Ruth Davidson, used to be the leader in Scotland. Frankly, when you read it, it's just bland.
Yes. Lots of statements about how they want Britain to be a place where people take responsibility, where everybody's looked after, where we're not judged for the colour of our skin. All statements that nobody could disagree with, perhaps. No. If you can't disagree with it, what exactly are you saying?
Yeah, I think it could have been written by the Lib Dem HQ. But
well, I think this is the purpose of this group. They want to drive the Tories more towards the Lib Dems.
Yeah.
But will that make them more electable?
No, not in my view. But we're going to talk to Andy Street, who is the architect of this new group. So, as ever, we'd like to know what you think. Is that what the Tory party needs to be even further into the centre towards the Lib Dems? Tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories this hour. The Chancellor is set to unveil a £300 million support package for pubs after they warned budget tax changes could lead to mass closures, job cuts and price rises. The Treasury is expected to announce the financial relief as soon as today, according to reports. Pubs are expected to receive around £100 million a year until 2029 through additional financial support, but the Chancellor has avoided more fundamental changes to business rates. It's understood around 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter objecting to the decision to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing in a forthcoming parliamentary by-election. Elsewhere, ground rents will be capped at £250 a year for leaseholders in England and Wales, the government has announced. And heavy rain and strong winds are hitting the UK as Storm Chandra brings weather warnings, flooding and travel disruption. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
When I heard the defection of Sella Braverman yesterday, I have to be honest, my instant reaction was, I thought she'd already gone. Because she was so closely aligned with Reform and everybody had assumed that she would defect. Her husband defected from the Tories to Reform, then came back to the Tories. He's apparently gone back again now. But it's a coup for Reform because she's a former Home Secretary. She was Home Secretary under Truss, but not long. and then Home Secretary under Rishi.
And he sacked her.
He sacked her. She was also an Attorney General. And so she has got something that Reform badly lack, experience.
Absolutely.
Of being in Cabinet. And the Tories, of course, have made a right hash of it because they put out a deeply offensive statement.
They did.
Talking about her mental health. Look, I get sick of hearing about mental health because I think we go on about it all the time. But for the Tories to say they'd done what they can to help her with her mental health was cheap, low grade, and not worthy of the official opposition.
It was. Well, I'm sure we're going to come on to that in a minute, but we're asking, was this the least surprising defection to Reform yet?
I'm announcing that I resign the Conservative whip. I am joining Reform UK.
Well, the former Home Secretary Sella Braverman said she's found her home at Reform UK and had this to say about the Conservatives.
So I'm calling time. I'm calling time on Tory betrayal. I'm calling time on Tory lies. I'm calling time on a party that keeps making promises with zero intention of keeping them.
Well, of course, you worked very closely with her, didn't you, when you were an MP? And I think I'm right in saying, Miriam, you liked her a lot.
Yeah.
And rated her.
Yeah, absolutely. And in private, she is an incredibly warm, normal, natural person who you can talk to about absolutely anything. And this kind of caricature of her that particularly the left-wing media like to put out about her being harsh, I mean, it's just not true. Obviously, in public, she gives a passionate speech. She's very clear about what she believes. She hasn't moved on what she believes. But she is one of the kindest, nicest, warmest people in politics that you'll meet. She's just fun. She was forever demonised because she used the expression invasion to describe the number of migrants who'd come to Britain. Well, I think there was, 45,000 last year crossing the Channel. They're the ones we know about. Certainly was a small invasion. Yeah. Well, she was punished for being one of the first people brave enough to speak out about the issues that, frankly, most people now agree are the top issues facing the UK. She went early on saying we should leave the ECHR and all those other issues. So she hasn't moved. The Tory party perhaps has moved around. Yeah. Mind you, when are we getting the Labour defection? Which, when Jenrick defected, was that 2 weeks ago now? Nigel Farage says we were getting a Labour defection. Well, apparently it's been paused until further notice, Andrew. So we're none the wiser. That means it's not happening. Well, we're going to talk now to the former Tory MP who was Sella Braverman's Parliamentary Private Secretary, James Sunderland. He was her closest aide. James Sunderland, good morning to you. Are you defecting too?
No, I'm not defecting at all. I watched yesterday's news with interest. I'm very sorry to see Sella go. I worked for her very closely for about 14 months. We had a good working relationship and, you know, she's a formidable politician and, you know, I wish her well. Now, James, people are saying this is the least surprising defection, mainly because many of the policies that Sella championed in the last Parliament and this are ones that were rejected by the Conservative Party, or at least initially they were rejected by the Conservative Party, ideas like coming out of the ECHR, instant deportations, but are now Tory party policy. Why do you think that she has chosen to move now? Why not earlier? I'm not party, Miriam, to any of the discussions that have taken place between her and Reform or her and the Conservative Party in recent months, but I suspect that she was on the edge in terms of wanting to go, not wanting to go for a while. You know, she's a clear thinker. She's got a very good brain. She was excellent to work for. And I know that she would have been agonising over that decision for quite some time. And it is interesting because Kemi, of course, has come out now and said that leaving the ECHR is now Conservative policy. It may be Sella's view that that policy has come out too late. And it may be that she's still slightly out of kilter with where the party's going. She was pretty tough on the Tory party, wasn't she, James, in that speech yesterday, saying it's just not there. She's effectively saying it's not really a Tory party anymore. Do you understand that sentiment? Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed to see that because ultimately she's been a member of the party for 30 years. The party has supported her. She became a Conservative MP, and obviously, you know, I'm wondering what her association is thinking this morning. But she does have a record of firing from the hip. She was outspoken as the Home Secretary. She said what she thought. It was very refreshing for me as somebody who worked closely with her. Obviously, she resigned from government in 2022 and then was fired by Rishi in 2023 for comments that she made in a letter, comments about the police force, comments about the Palestinian marches. So she's no stranger at all to say what she thinks. And I think that that's quite refreshing in politics. She's quite an honest politician. But it may just be that she's had these thoughts for some time. She wasn't able to reconcile them. She was excellent to work for. She always told you what she thought. She took a risk with those around her. She was very popular with her staff. Katie Lamb, for example, was one of her spads at the time. We wrote the speech together that she delivered at party conference in 2023. So she was always known to be a fighter, always known to be a clear thinker, and she always fired from the hip.
What do you make of the jibe, Frank, at her mental health in that official statement released by the Conservative Party? I know they subsequently withdrew it, but they published it, and it was, to my mind, deeply offensive. And if she does have mental health issues, they should be private.
Well, I'm going to say two things on that. The first thing was I was horrified to see it. There was an outcry on the Conservatives WhatsApp group. It was retracted straight away by Kevin Hollenrake, the party chairman. And my sense is that it was released in error by a junior communications officer at CCHQ. So I'm very pleased that the party...
How could anybody write it in the first place, James? Sorry to interrupt. How could they even have the mindset to write that?
It was the wrong thing to do, and I'm pleased that the party has apologised to her. The second thing I'd say to you is that having worked with Sella very closely indeed, I mean, she is one of the most bomb-proof politicians I've ever met in my life. I mean, she was extraordinary. I asked her one day, I said to her, Sella, you get more abuse than most on social media. It's foul. The left hated her. How do you deal with it? And she said, James, I'm of brown descent and I'm married to a Jew. It's water off a duck's back. She was absolutely bomb-proof, completely unmoved by what people thought about her. Very headstrong. And again, I liked her and I thought she was a good Home Secretary. And I'm sorry to see her go.
All right, that's James Sunderland, who lost his seat at the last election, but with Sella Braverman, old parliamentary private secretary. He says he's not going to defect. Braverman talked about the Tories betraying the country. That's a strong word.
Well, I think it's very similar what she said to Robert Jenrick. They were both keen not to personally attack Kemi Badenoch, not saying she was working hard, moving in the right direction, but both of them characterised the rest of the Tory party as split, and so they've lost confidence that should there be another Conservative government, where they could actually deliver the policies that Kemi Badenoch is trying to
I'd love to know what she thinks about Sir Andy Street's new group that we're talking about later in the programme.
Couldn't be more different.
We're going to share some of the death-defying statements of policy by this new group, but we will be talking to Andy Street about that. I'm looking forward to it.
Indeed. Well, still ahead, we're also going to be joined by the former chair of the Met Police Federation, who was unlawfully suspended after telling GB News that officers were hesitating before engaging with ethnic minority Londoners.
Up next, it's Holocaust Memorial Day as we remember the 6 million Jewish people murdered by the Nazis, and we're looking at why so few schools in Britain are now marking the day. This is Britain's Newsroom, GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's unsettled in the UK at the moment and very unsettled across southern parts of Europe. Storm Joseph is bringing some very heavy rain across parts of Portugal, Spain, also Gibraltar as we go through the rest of today and into tomorrow. We're talking 50 to 100 millimetres of rain in just 24 hours. And it's similarly unsettled further east around Italy and neighbouring nations. A huge amount of rain coming, the risk of thunder, also some significant snow building up. More unsettled weather to come through this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. from 11, only on GB News.
Yeah, that tea party taking place a little bit later on today. But before all of that, we are here on Pooh Bridge for an extra special game of Pooh Sticks. I've got some sticks here from the 100-acre wood that we're going to be using. There's a whole host of people here who have wanted to play Pooh Sticks with me. Lily and Anya have also been collecting sticks today. They're a big fan of Winnie the Pooh. Anya, what's Lily's favourite character?
It is Winnie the Pooh.
And what is it about Winnie the Pooh that's so popular, not only from people like you growing up, but also Lily now?
Well, we love all the stories and how there is a message from each of the stories as well. We read them every night. And what do you love about Winnie the Pooh as well? Honey, don't you? The little honey pots.
Amazing. Well, you get your sticks ready. We've also got a running group who have come here especially today to mark 100 years of Winnie the Pooh from Haywards Heath. They have all come prepared with their sticks. Some have even brought sticks from home. Sticks are at the ready. You've brought your sticks from home. What's your technique?
Well, mine are actually probably quite wet, which I've heard is not a good thing. I think they need to be a bit drier.
In 3, 2, 1, go. Right, the sticks are in the water, but who is gonna win here at Pooh Sticks Bridge? Oh, it wasn't me. There's the first stick to come through. Whose was that? Becky, you are the winner. Congratulations of Pooh Sticks on Pooh Sticks Bridge. But this is just the first round. They've got a whole clipboard here. There's 30 of them come for a whole tournament here today to play Pooh Sticks on what is Winnie the Pooh Day, marking 100 years since Winnie the Pooh was first published back in Christmas Eve of 1925. And this, of course, Winnie the Pooh Day being marked today on the birthday of A.A. Milne.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 12 minutes to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
It's Holocaust Memorial today, marking the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust alongside victims of other genocides.
But worryingly, the number of schools commemorating the Holocaust has more than halved since the October 7th attacks in Israel in 2023.
Going to talk now to Noemi Lopian, who's a Holocaust educator and campaigner whose parents were Holocaust survivors. Good morning to you. First of all, can we just say this is a very special day. How do you feel people do respect Holocaust Memorial Day in the way they should in this country? And why should we respect it too?
I think it's great that it has been put into this country as part of British culture. It was founded in the year 2000 and across all parties, so everyone gave it importance. But I don't know. I think it's very important that it's on your programmes and other news channels for people to know that this is the day today. I don't know if ordinary people going about their lives know about Holocaust Memorial Day, or indeed figures are showing how still so much needs to be learned about Holocaust, what happened, and also important to prevent it happening again.
No, I mean, when I was a child and learning history at school, the Holocaust was perhaps the one topic that every school child in the UK learned about. We were very aware of what had happened, and the slogan, never again. And it seems quite extraordinary that just half a generation later we're seeing a big increase in anti-Semitism. We're seeing people deny the Holocaust, or at least the extent of it. Are you concerned that actually we're losing that kind of understanding of what really happened in this country?
I'm extremely concerned. I'm extremely concerned. Survivors are getting older and fewer. We won't be hearing directly from them, but more so with the figures that you mentioned, that less than half the schools that were commemorating Holocaust Memorial Day are commemorating Holocaust Memorial today. So in 3 years ago, 2,000 schools commemorated Holocaust Memorial Day, and today it's roughly 875, less than half. And the reason that I feel it's still relevant today and important today is both my parents experienced the Holocaust, over 6 million people, 6 million Jewish people, plus other people such as Roma, Sinti, disabled, anybody who Hitler deemed was not Aryan enough for him. And the reason that it's important to commemorate today is Jew hatred is on the rise, anti-Semitism is on the rise. And we need to have a conversation in schools. We need to educate our children. I got asked by school children last week, how did it happen? How come that nobody spoke up for the Jews? How come the Jews couldn't defend themselves? That was in primary school. And then the teacher, and I add bravely and courageously, asked me at the end of the session, how do you feel about anti-Semitism today? That never, the past and the present, is never associated. It's never spoken about, the elephant in the room. And I think it's important to say what anti-Semitism is. It comes from hate. Every century, it gets cloaked up into different intellectual arguments. The far right, the far left, the jihadi extremists, each one has a different argument. But it comes, the reason is the same. It comes from hate and from scapegoating a group of people. Today, we're only 0.5% of the population in Great Britain is Jewish.
And we saw the terrible attack on the synagogue last year, and my understanding of why so few schools are now marking Holocaust Memorial Day is because of concern that there will be protests outside schools by pro-Palestinian sympathisers, which I think is shocking, and I think the schools, frankly, should stand up to those protests.
I think the schools should stand up, but the schools aren't geared to stand up. It has to come from higher. It has to come from our education ministry, from our school ministry, giving the schools the tools and the courage and the laws backing them to say, this has to happen. This is about common human decency. This is what the basics of Holocaust teaching is about in primary school, to go with your inner conscience and not follow the crowd conscience. Hitler by scapegoat. Sorry, go on, sorry.
No, I'm afraid we're going to have to bring the interview to a close now because we've reached the top of the hour. But thank you so much, Naomi. Really, really good to speak to you, and thank you for your time this morning.
And I really hope, if you've got children or grandchildren at school, that their school is going to mark this very, very important day. Don't you?
Absolutely. I think we should send school children on visits to places like Auschwitz. You can go there relatively cheaply for 24, 48 hours.
It should almost be
never forget it.
It could be part of the curriculum.
Completely agree. Wouldn't cost that much. Definitely worth doing.
And to think Naomi's own parents were her own father was in 7 camps.
It's extraordinary.
Shocking. Plenty more to come this morning. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News. And we've got a great row story about free speech here on GB News.
It's after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Storm Chandra is here. It's already brought some very heavy rain and it's going to continue to do so through today, as well as the risk of damaging winds. The strongest winds will be across parts of Northern Ireland. Eastern parts of Northern Ireland have the risk of gusts of around 70, 75 miles per hour and some significant disruption likely. Worth noting elsewhere, as the band of heavy rain pushes its way northwards, we're going to see some significant snow building up over higher ground of parts of northern England and also much of Scotland, and then elsewhere showers following in behind after a very wet night towards the southwest. Temperatures just about getting into double figures towards the south, much colder than this further north, all the while when it's so wet and so windy, well, it's going to feel much colder than those temperatures may suggest. So a wet end to the day across much of central, northern and eastern Scotland. Lots of snow falling and accumulating over the higher ground. That's going to cause some disruption. The strong winds and the heavy rain continues across Northern Ireland for a little while yet. Difficult conditions for the evening rush hour. Meanwhile, plenty of showers then feeding in from the south and west across much of England and Wales. Just some central eastern parts of England having a drier, clearer end to the day. Then as we go overnight, well, we start to see the influence of Storm Chandra clearing away. So the weather will be quietening down. There'll be some dry, clear weather across some central eastern parts of England, and that could allow for a touch of frost perhaps. Elsewhere, some rain towards the northeast of Scotland, some showery rain towards the southwest, and with that, temperatures not dropping as low where we have the cloud and the rain. Then Wednesday, actually, for a large chunk of the country, doesn't look too bad a day. Yes, a frosty start, but there will be some dry, even sunny weather around for many places, the exception being across eastern parts of Scotland, some wet, some wintry weather here, and also across much of Northern Ireland and at times parts of Wales and the southwest, where it will be cloudy and wet at times as well. Temperatures, well, similar to today, but feeling a bit more pleasant out of the rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M6 northbound in Cheshire East, congestion between junction 16 and junction 18 is still causing delays of around 30 minutes, with traffic expected to ease from 11:15 this morning. In Cambridgeshire, on the A14 eastbound exit slip at junction 21, a crash has left one of two lanes closed, clearing from 25 to 11. In West Sussex, the A27 eastbound between the A259 at Havant and the A259 at Chichester West has lane restrictions after a collision, adding up to 50 minutes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 27th of January. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Sella Braverman has ended her 30 years as a Conservative. Did she have any nice words for a former party?
When push comes to shove, they go AWOL. No courage, no backbone, no resolve.
Well, the Tories have said goodbye to Sella, but how do you feel about Reform having yet another Conservative MP in their ranks?
And the rebellion is growing in the Labour Party. 50 of their MPs have written to Sir Keir Starmer telling him to reverse the decision to block Andy Burnham standing as an MP in that by-election next month.
There seems to be an assumption of racism right from the off, particularly when it's a white police officer. and a member of the public from a minority ethnic community.
A victory for free speech. The High Court rules it was unlawful to suspend the former chair of the Met Police Federation for questioning if the police were institutionally racist while on GB News.
Well, Rick Pryor made those comments to us in October 2024. He has finally had justice now, as it has been revealed that the High Court has quashed that decision to sack him by the Policing Federation of England and Wales. He'll be joining us shortly to talk about that lengthy legal battle.
Holocaust Memorial Day. We will remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children murdered by the Nazis, and we're looking at why a growing number of schools aren't doing the same.
And Rwanda sues Britain. The East African nation is taking legal action worth £50 million after Labour scrapped the deportation deal between the two countries.
Storm Chandra strikes, heavy rain and 70-mile-an-hour winds are battering Britain as a danger to life alert is issued across southwest England and Northern Ireland.
We're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain.
The former West Midlands Mayor Sir Andy Street co-launches the political movement Prosper UK to combat the rise of Reform UK. The Tory politician will be joining us soon.
Beckham's united, but without Brooklyn. Victoria finally breaks her silence on her family a week after her son's social media onslaught against his own parents.
Well, the Andy Burnham row still rages on. Of course, the Reform defection yesterday slightly took the news away from it, but Labour MPs are not happy that Andy Burnham was blocked from standing.
50 MPs have written to the Prime Minister to say reverse the decision. We've got Kevin Maguire from the Daily Mirror. He'll be with us shortly on the programme. Well plugged into the Labour Party. It'd be interesting to see if he thinks this revolt's going to grow and what is the chances now of a move against Starmer. I think it's growing enormously now.
Well, possibly, although the move seems to be from the left, and now the left don't have their candidate, Andy Burnham. Would the left unite around Wes Streeting, for example? I'm not sure they would. He's seen as on the Blair right wing. And where's your favourite, Angela Rayner?
She's got this little problem about an unpaid £40,000
sure she can brush it off.
Tax bill. As ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. The Chancellor is set to unveil a £300 million support package for pubs after they warned budget tax changes could lead to mass closures, job cuts and price rises. The Treasury is expected to announce the financial relief as soon as today, according to reports. Pubs are expected to receive around £100 million a year until 2029 through additional financial support, but the Chancellor has avoided more fundamental changes to business rates. Other hospitality businesses, such as restaurants, cafes and hotels, are, however, expected to miss out, despite also warning over soaring bills. The Treasury's planned intervention comes after an intensifying backlash from industry bosses and MPs over impending tax increases. Heavy rain and strong winds are hitting the UK as Storm Chandra brings weather warnings, flooding and travel disruption. Several for wind, rain and snow have been active since yesterday evening, and some amber and yellow warnings for rain have just come into force across Cornwall and Belfast. National Rail issued a warning that poor weather may affect South Western rail services until the end of the day. A total of 242 schools are closed today in Northern Ireland due to severe weather, according to the country's government website. Now, as understood, around 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter objecting to the decision to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing in a forthcoming parliamentary by-election. They've written to the Prime Minister to warn the decision is a real gift to Reform UK, as polling suggests Burnham may be Labour's very best chance at winning the vacant Gorton and Denton seat. The signatories said there was no legitimate reason to block Burnham and asked for Labour's NEC to re-evaluate. The Prime Minister said allowing him to contest the seat would have diverted Labour's resources away from other important elections. Reform UK will announce its candidate for the contest today at a press conference in the constituency. Sir Keir Starmer says he will not be forced to choose between relations with the US or China ahead of the first visit of a British leader to Beijing in 8 years. The Prime Minister said the UK would maintain close ties with the US on business, security and defence, but added that sticking your head in the sand and ignoring China wouldn't be sensible. In the interview with Bloomberg News, he said the visit to the world's second largest economy could bring significant opportunities for British companies. The trip comes days after the UK approved controversial plans for a vast new Chinese embassy in London. The long-delayed decision was made despite opponents warning it could be used as a base for Chinese spying. Housing Secretary Steve Reed spoke to GB News.
You have relations with a foreign country, then we have an embassy in their capital, they have an embassy in our capital. Now, of course, I've heard I think it's scaremongering, to be honest, about the Chinese embassy in London. Of course, we need to be alive to the security risks. That's why we have security services. But they have made very, very clear it is better for UK security to have the Chinese embassy in one location than 7 different locations, which is how it is currently. So the security services expressed no unreasonable concerns about relocating the Chinese in one embassy. In fact, they think it's better than 7 different sites. And I think that piece of information doesn't get across often enough.
And today marks Holocaust Memorial Day, commemorating the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust alongside victims of other genocides. Today is the 81st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. It's the day to honour those who suffered and died, ensuring their stories are not forgotten. One Holocaust survivor who hid in a cellar to escape persecution said it was comforting to know that his son would continue to tell his story. 87-year-old Paul Sven was born to a Jewish family in Budapest in February of 1938. The theme of this year's HMD is bridging generations, highlighting the role that younger people will play in preserving memories of the Holocaust. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. You've been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Some chat about this Labour defection that was on and is now off again.
Yeah. What's happened to it?
Sky says, I said the same to my mum last night. Why has it gone quiet? Well, I've heard that it's on permanent pause. Perhaps whoever it is has got cold feet.
Yeah. Or perhaps that Reform overplayed their hand in the first place on that one. Now, there was a big victory for free speech. The High Court has ruled the Police Federation unlawfully suspended 2 police officers for questioning whether the police are institutionally racist.
Yes, Richard Cook and Rick Pryor were punished for comments made on GB News and social media.
In an interview with us here, Mr Pryor suggested officers were worried about being labelled racist while patrolling areas of London.
There's a striking crisis of confidence at the moment within policing in general, and certainly within the Metropolitan Police, whereby officers are withdrawing from any kind of proactive policing for fear of falling foul of the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, or a vexatious or malicious complaint. There seems to be an assumption of racism right from the off, particularly when it's a white police officer and a member of the public from a minority ethnic community.
But the High Court has now ruled that the Police Federation was wrong to suspend both officers for those comments.
Our national reporter Charlie Peters joins us. It was an interview with you, of course, Charlie, which triggered this round in the first place.
Yes, I've had a tremendous sense of guilt, really, since October 2024, when Rick Pryor and I had a very frank and clear conversation about the problems facing police officers in London. It came after an incident in Croydon, where an officer was trying to stop a lady do a ticket inspection, and the interaction escalated so much that he was eventually actually tried for assault at a magistrate's court. This was all quashed and thrown out, but he was subject to accusations of racism as well, an IOPC investigation. It really ran on. And so Rick Pryor came to speak to us, knowing that GB News was a place where these concerns could be heard fairly, and told us these problems, and was then suspended in his position as chair of the Met Police Federation, his concerns about officers hesitating due to fears of malicious or vexatious complaints, then suspended also by the Policing Federation of England and Wales. So it went one step Further, it led to a lengthy battle, with Rick Pryor being backed by the Free Speech Union, and has led to this victory in the High Court. Article 10 of the ECHR, so his rights to freedom of expression, came through. And I'm very happy to say we can now speak to Rick Pryor, who joins us, I think, in Thailand. He's won a legal battle, and he's now relaxing by the beach in Phuket. Rick, a very good afternoon, I suppose, to you over there. Thank you very much for joining us. It's victory for you now. Finally, some justice for your honest and frank comments about what police officers were facing in London. How does it feel?
Thank you for having me, Charlie. And I'm not sure if I should be feeling nervous. I haven't got a position to put into jeopardy anymore. But yeah, it all stemmed from that fateful interview back in October 24. And it's been a long, arduous battle. And I think common sense has prevailed. And I think the High Court has come to a very reasoned and sound judgment.
And Rick, in the background, while you were engaged in this battle to stand up for your right to share the concerns of police officers, what have members of the Met told you, serving officers, rank and file, the men and women you previously represented in that role, about what you said, about the fear of vexatious and malicious complaints, about allegations of racism? Have you had a lot of support in private, and do you fear now that those concerns won't be heard?
Yes, I've had lots and lots of support from all of the officers that I was charged to represent. Very humbling support. The crowdfund was a lot of police officers who are struggling who donated towards that fund to so that I was able to take this to the High Court. I'm very grateful to everybody who supported me. And on your second point, I think that's true. I think there's a chilling effect that my suspension and ultimate removal from office and Richard Cook's suspension, removal from office has had on other chairs. And I think that people are going to be very hesitant moving forwards in terms of expressing honest views in the public domain.
Rick, I think it's astonishing that the Police Federation, of all bodies, tried to silence you, because the whole point of the Police Federation, which you were part of, is to represent the views of ordinary police officers about a range of issues, one of which I would have said is how they're frightened to do their job because of racial pressures.
Yes, you were surprised, but I probably should say not as surprised as I was. There was always a red line I had to be very careful of. As a Federation official, as a senior Federation official, I was still a police officer, still am a police officer, and we are all bound by what's called the standards of professional behaviour. So we have to be very careful not to venture past that line and say anything that could be potentially deemed to be misconduct in the police sphere. So I was always very careful about what I said in relation to that. I never thought for a second that my own Staff Support Association, the Police Federation, would come after me. I didn't think it for a second. Yeah, the following day, I was suspended by the now discredited, unelected autocrat CEO, Mukund Krishna, who I think his position now is untenable.
Now, Rick, the public expects that the police will police without fear or favour, that if somebody needs to be arrested or searched or questioned, they will do that, regardless of which community that person may or may not be from. Do you have confidence at the moment in the police in Britain that that is how they are approaching policing?
I think there's still a crisis of confidence at the ground level. I think that a lot of work needs to be done in relation to shoring up that confidence to allow officers to deal with certainly proactive matters. There's no suggestion, by the way, that officers are in any kind of dereliction of their main duties. The effect that the crisis of confidence has is that extra step that proactive officers would take. They see something that they think is perhaps suspicious, and they interrupt what they're doing to go and deal with that matter. The crisis of confidence means that they hesitate in doing that, and they take the safe route, which you can't blame them. Most officers have got families, they've got children, they've got mortgages, and without that support, the crisis of confidence is a very real phenomenon, which I hasten to add has been highlighted by the Commissioner himself. at the same time, or just before I was suspended. He made a public speech saying as much.
Well, Rick Pryor, former chairman of the Metropolitan Police Federation, thank you so much for your time this morning. Thanks for your bravery and enjoy your holiday. It's very well deserved.
Well,
see you, Rick.
Absolutely. Now, we've got a statement from the Police Federation of England and Wales who say, we consider this judgment to be flawed and will appeal. This case is about process, not about the substance of the complaint or whether we were right or wrong to take action.
We acted following multiple serious complaints about behaviour that was found by an independent panel to fall below the standards set out in our statutory rules.
We were right to act, and it's vital that we continue to stand up for victims and challenge poor behaviour, particularly on matters of race and discrimination. We believe the processes that were carried out were fair and reflected the standards expected of Federation reps. So they're appealing it. Incredible.
Amazing story. Thank you, Charlie Peters, for bringing that.
Well done, Charlie.
Good luck to Rick. And we'll be covering it later on in the programme as well.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. You've just got a few days left, so you could become our biggest cash winner to date, £85,000 tax-free. Here's how to do it.
There's only 4 days left to see how you could win, as our biggest cash prize to date is up for grabs, an incredible £85,000, and it really could be yours. That's tax-free cash to spend all throughout 2026. What would you do with £85,000? But you have to hurry, as lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, an Andy Burnham rebellion brews as 50 MPs write a letter to the Prime Minister asking to reverse his decision to block Andy Burnham standing as an MP.
But Sir Keir probably won't see that letter because he's jetting off to China today to meet the Chinese despot, otherwise known as President Xi. We'll be going through that and more with our panel today, Kevin Maguire of the Daily Mirror fame and Dr. Rennie Honderkamp. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Smith right now, Jordan, look at that smile. I bet that hasn't come off your face since yesterday. Many congratulations.
No, thank you for having me, guys. Yeah, I've been smiling the whole time for the last 24 hours. It's just been
obviously, I would imagine that winning the money is the greatest thing, but what was it like being out there? You're in Rod Laver, the main court there in Melbourne. You're playing the world's greatest players. What did it feel like?
Yeah, it was a dream come true. Obviously, as a kid, being a tennis player, coming from Sydney in Australia, just dreaming of being in a Grand Slam or anything like that. Just never could imagine that this happened, and I never would have thought it would be a 1-point slam. Like, it's just an amazing concept, amazing idea, and yeah, it's just I just got to pinch myself, and hasn't really sunk in yet.
Now, here's Sinner. Here's the Yannick Sinner game. Now, How did this begin? So, did you actually win the rock paper scissors to have him serve first?
Yeah, that was my tactic. Yeah, I decided. Yeah, I did win the rock paper scissors, and yeah, I was just noticing that a lot of the top pros were quite nervous because they get one serve.
Yeah.
So they were sort of panicking, and they always chose to receive. And they sort of mentioned just sort of little words about just sort of not wanting to double fault. And I guess everyone might have thought that a pro would take it out. But yeah, I guess everyone has a chance. And it was amazing that yeah, I just took it one point at a time. It's a cliche, but I just enjoyed the moment. I sort of tried to look at my family and friends and sort of smile and wave. And as I said, I couldn't take the smile off my face. And I was in disbelief at the end.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
That noisy talk was Kevin Maguire. Doesn't wait to be. Doesn't wait to. Yeah, well, yeah, I was obviously defending everything against whatever he's saying. There's Kevin Maguire from the Daily Mirror and Dr. Rennie Hunderkamp. Can we talk to you, Kevin? The Times says Labour are going to be third in the by-election, or Labour Party senior people think Labour will fall to third place in the by-election, which Andy Burnham will not now fight because of Starmer's decision, which he was deeply involved in.
Yeah, well, it's a long way down if you've held the seat and you had about 13,000 majority at the last election, but you knock out for various reasons. One is Andy Burnham, who's your best chance of winning it.
King of the North.
They might be able to get a local champion who could turn it around, which is going to be very hard, but it's a long way down, and Starmer will directly own that now. If it's catastrophic. In a way, he didn't own Runcorn when Sarah poached and they lost by 6 votes.
What I fully expected Labour to block Burnham. I expected that, but I didn't expect the Prime Minister, who's a member of the subcommittee of the NEC, to not only get involved in the discussion, he opened the discussion and voted. Yeah, well, so he's now totally tied to that decision.
But the NEC is controlled by him and his group, so whatever decision they took would have been coming back to him. So at least he showed some leadership on that and didn't hide. But we know it's quite right. I think if you're elected as a mayor, you should serve your full term. You should actually do that. But at the same time, we also know it's because the Prime Minister's weak, and if Andy Burnham got into Parliament, he's not going in to be an MP, he's going to switch the initials around and become Prime Minister, and he would have been a constant source of aggravation for him. It's a mess. Labour have just got itself into a hell of a mess here.
Well, no, it could have been a big risk for Andy Burnham, though. If he had been allowed to stand, he might not have won the seat. He then would have lost not only that by-election, but also the mayoralty. He's done quite well out of this decision.
I think he has done quite well because he's been able to position himself as, look, I wanted to do it, they wouldn't let me, they're the baddies, I'll just carry on now with my day job. But there were so many things that this was the true definition of between a rock and a hard place, because there were so many other things as well. Because if they'd have allowed him to run and then had to spend £500,000 on that mayoral election, there would be no justification for stopping the 27 councils who they've stopped voting on a completely cost basis. They would have had to go ahead with those, I think, to be morally in the right place. So I think nobody was going to win out of this other than all of the other parties.
Kevin, what do you think Burnham is much better, would be a much better sale for Labour on the doorstep as Prime Minister?
Yes, possibly, probably. You can say anyone will be a great Prime Minister until you get tested.
He ran twice before. His MPs didn't trust him.
Oh, yeah.
They said he kept shifting his position.
Yeah, like I chaired hustings for the trade unions and he was all over the place. Yeah. I remember one of them, he said he wouldn't take any trade union money, but he would take business money. I used to always introduce rounds where I called them the real life round. And I'd ask the candidates, what's the cost of a loaf of bread, pint of milk, petrol, prescription, anything like that. And I remember asking him once what was a litre of petrol. From memory, around at the time, it was 116p. Let's go back to those days. He said 160p. Wow. Right? And so there was lots of laughter that he was...
Probably sausages, Kevin, and they have to be yellow.
The next hustings, he came along, and I introduced this round again. And he answered perfectly. I looked down, he'd written everything down. No. The price of everything, loaf of bread, milk, TV, licence, prescription.
So much of being man of the people.
Yeah, well, it was. But he ran 2 terrible campaigns. And there was no guarantee, if he'd have got in, he would have been the successor to Starmer if as we expect.
But would he also not have had to move the Labour Party much more left, which is the antithesis to everything that people that are voting for reform want? So he could have actually just galvanised...
No, look, people in reform want ownership of public services like water, which he would back now. So like everybody in reform isn't absolutely right on all economic issues.
But they do want immigration control. They do want...
Well, everybody wants a system that works in borders.
We haven't got one.
But there's the old joke.
Haven't got one under your lot.
No, or your lot. Look, it takes time to get this to work. The old joke.
I thought they were going to smash the gangs.
The old joke is because Andy Burnham's a bit of a shifter. Call him a flip-flopper. You never quite know where he is. He might have found his final position now. But the old joke is a Blairite, a Brownite, a Corbynite walk into the pub, and the barman says, "Hello, Andy."
Yeah.
Right, and that is right now.
It's an old one.
He's been all over the place, but he's been a good mayor of Greater Manchester. I think he won every ward.
He did
in Manchester, so he's very popular. He sorted the buses out, and he speaks well. I heard people during COVID when he was defending his area when regional shutdowns were coming down, and I was hearing people in the northeast all of a sudden saying for the first time, "I like that Andy Burnham."
Is he doomed, Starmer?
I think so. Yeah.
Really?
There might be a great event that comes along and he responds to it and people see him in a new light. But at the moment, most people seem to have made up their mind they don't like him. They see him as a dud. That's coming back to Labour MPs, that's coming back to Labour ministers, that's coming back to members of his cabinet. Fairly unfairly, that's the position. And I think Labour's an omnivore party. The Conservatives were always carnivores and loved to devour and eat and bite the heads off their leaders. Labour doesn't really do that.
Tofu eating, Guardian reading, wokarati, as Sella Braverman famously said.
I think Labour will change its leader in this Parliament. And
this year.
I'd be amazed if there isn't a challenge to Starmer this year, either in terms of 20% of the MPs writing the name of Wes Streeton or whoever they want. That's under Labour rules. You've got to name 20% of MPs, a fifth have to say who they want, or there's just an insurrection.
Renee, one of the things that people do think Starmer has done fairly well at is the foreign affairs, trying to get Trump on board. He's now visiting China. Some would say we desperately need trade with China. But just in the papers today, a story about Chinese hackers in number 10. Do you approve of his visits to Beijing?
I don't, because in order to get that visit, he's approved this embassy, which he should never be approving. Even the Americans don't have an embassy like this in London. I think that we do need to see China, whatever trade we do with them, and that's a different story. We need to reclaim some of it. We need to see China as the enemy that they are. They haven't even made a secret of it. They told the world 30 years ago what they were going to do. They wrote a book about it. They're going to do it. They're doing it. We need to actually reclaim some of our ground here, maybe reindustrialise the country so we're not so dependent on them. But we should be seeing China as an enemy. I mean, I wonder how long he will spend on Jimmy Lai when he's there, you know?
Explain who Jimmy Lai is,
3 seconds.
Renee.
Jimmy Lai is the journalist an elderly man now, I think he's 78, who is in prison for being a journalist and saying things that China do not want him to say. He's a British citizen. He should be back here at least, but he certainly shouldn't be in prison. And the conditions that he has been in have been absolutely disgusting. But China's human rights issues, and bear in mind Starmer is a human rights lawyer, are shocking. Yeah. They have got 2 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps undergoing compulsory sterilisation or abortions and re-education. But nobody says anything about this because they're a big trade. They don't.
Look, I've no doubt in this meeting with Starmer, it'll be about a minute. There's no question. But you have to deal with the world.
You'll only get a minute with the president.
No, he'll raise human rights and Lee and so on. But do you think the Prime Minister should deal with Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman?
I think there's lots of conversations he should have around the world.
But the answer is yes.
I think it belies the Labour position.
The answer is yes. They have a worse human rights record, and the answer is yes because you have to deal with the world as it is. Doesn't mean you bend the knee.
I'm going to speak just for a bit because you are speaking a lot. Labour.
Sense. Thank you very much.
Labour position themselves as the human rights police of the world. Lots of the decisions they make are because of the human rights. Lots of them. Like Chagos, for example. But then suddenly they can ignore them when it's people they want to do deals with.
It won't be ignored, but you have to deal with the world as it is, and China is a huge economic superpower. I accept that the Saudi Arabia sells oil. I mean, I wouldn't sell arms to them, but I see why we buy their oil, and I would raise the human rights in Saudi Arabia. But I think you have to deal with these countries, which is why you go to them.
You're not uncomfortable, as Renee says, even opposed to the Chinese embassy? It's the biggest embassy in Europe.
I'd rather it was...
Most of it was redacted, so we don't know what's going on underground.
No, we do now.
But only because the press wrote the story.
It was publicly redacted, but it wasn't redacted to the government. I remember when the Telegraph published the plans, the government knew those plans. I'd rather it was smaller, but the Americans used to have a huge embassy in Grosvenor Square in the middle of London. They decided to go to Battersea. They've got a very big embassy there, actually. The Chinese are building a big statement embassy overlooking the old Royal Mint building. I know the area quite well, overlooking the Tower of London and Tower Bridge. I'd rather it was smaller. But if a country says we're going to build this embassy on that site, you can say, well, you know, knock off 12 rooms. It's not going to make much difference in all truth, is it?
So you could just say no, find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Not in this location.
And what are you going to say? It's got be a three-bed semi in Harrow or something. What are you going to do?
It doesn't need to be in the middle of our tourist district, as you rightly point out, in one of our most prestigious locations in London. They are not our friends. Anybody who thinks China are our friends, there is a story today that they were spying on our ministers in Parliament, and I'm sure they're still doing it today.
Don't we spy on those? Don't we spy on those?
Yes. That's why we have GCHQ, and we're part of the Five Eyes. We have listening posts in Cyprus, we have listening posts in Gibraltar. Like, everyone spies on everybody else. Angela Merkel discovered the Americans were spying on a mobile phone. I was told by a very senior cabinet minister at the time that he was told by his French counterpart, watch what you say on your mobile phone, because our intelligence services are listening. I mean, look, that's it. I mean, we can get upset about China spying on us. We spy on China.
Isn't the problem, though, Renee, that we are completely economically beholden to the Chinese? And had we said no to the embassy, for example, Xingye, the steel company, had threatened to pull out of a £1 billion investment in...
But everybody is very quick to talk about Trump's bullying, but that too is bullying. But nobody says anything about that. That's business, that's trade. But when Trump threatens terrorists, it's bullying.
Why were they so desperate for that Chinese embassy in that position, in that design? It's because it's going to be a major spy centre.
Maybe they're big fans of the tower.
Look, we used to go and burn Chinese palaces in the 1840s because they didn't want to buy our heroin anymore. You're not going to give us a tour on colonialism. They have been treated as a colonial a developing... No, and it's now an incredibly sophisticated country with a huge economy. BYD sell more electric cars than Tesla. Solar panels are coming into Britain very cheap. I'd like to reindustrialise.
Kill switches in them.
China, how do you know they haven't? That's a conspiracy thing.
A bit like the Labour defection, we're going to have to pause there, and we'll come back to it in an hour because we've got
60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. The Chancellor is set to unveil a £300 million support package for pubs after they warned budget tax changes could lead to mass closures, job cuts and price rises. The Treasury's planned intervention comes after an intensifying backlash from industry bosses and MPs over impending tax increases. It's understood around 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter objecting to the decision to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing in a forthcoming parliamentary by-election. Ground rents will be capped at £250 a year for leaseholders in England and Wales, the government has announced. Heavy rain and strong winds are hitting the UK as Storm Chandra brings weather warnings, flooding and travel disruption. Those are the latest headlines. For now, there's more news from me at 11.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, still ahead, could the Tory politicians Sir Andy Street and Baroness Ruth Davidson, your neutral Andrew member, restore your faith in the Conservatives?
You won't.
We're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain.
Well, they say they're targeting the politically homeless and want to tackle the rise of Reform UK. I'm not sure that's the way to do it, but we'll be talking to Sandy Street in the studio very shortly. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Storm Chandra is here. It's already brought some very heavy rain and it's going to continue to do so through today, as well as the risk of damaging winds. The strongest winds will be across parts of Northern Ireland. Eastern parts of Northern Ireland have the risk of gusts of around 70-75 miles per hour and some significant disruption likely. Worth noting elsewhere, as the band of heavy rain pushes its way northwards, we're going to see some significant snow building up over higher ground of parts of northern England and also much of Scotland, and then elsewhere showers following in behind after a very wet night towards the southwest. Temperatures just about getting into double figures towards the south, much colder than this further north, all the while when it's so wet and so windy, well, it's going to feel much colder than those temperatures may suggest. So a wet end to the day across much of central, northern and eastern Scotland. Lots of snow falling and accumulating over the higher ground. That's going to cause some disruption. The strong winds and the heavy rain continues across Northern Ireland for a little while yet. Difficult conditions for the evening rush hour. Meanwhile, plenty of showers then feeding in from the south and west across much of England and Wales. Just some central eastern parts of England having a drier, clearer end to the day. Then as we go overnight, well, we start to see the influence of Storm Chandra clearing away. So the weather will be quietening down. There'll be some dry, clear weather across some central eastern parts of England, and that could allow for a touch of frost perhaps elsewhere. Some rain towards the northeast of Scotland. Some showery rain towards the southwest, and with that, temperatures not dropping as low where we have the cloud and the rain. Then Wednesday, actually, for a large chunk of the country, doesn't look too bad a day. Yes, a frosty start, but there will be some dry, even sunny weather around for many places. The exception being across eastern parts of Scotland, some wet, some wintry weather here, and also across much of Northern Ireland and at times parts of Wales and the southwest, where it will be cloudy and wet at times as well. Temperatures, well, similar to today, but feeling a bit more pleasant out of the rain.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A701 is currently closed at St Anne's as authorities continue to investigate a road traffic collision. Meanwhile, an incident on the A487 is causing significant delays between Llanrhystr and Aberystwyth, with diversions successfully guiding motorists around the area. In West Berkshire, the A34 northbound near the M4 has one lane closed after a vehicle veered off the road, but it is expected to clear by 11:30. On the railway front, both Avanti West Coast and Cross Country report major disruptions on several routes due to unforeseen issues, leading to extended travel delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 22 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I had to read this story twice because I thought it was so extraordinary. Rwanda. Remember Rwanda? We all know about Rwanda and our attempts to deport people to Rwanda, where we're now being sued for £50 million by Rwanda after the Labour government scrapped that deportation deal pretty much on day one of the new administration.
Well, this move by the Rwandan government revives the controversy over Sir Keir Starmer's decision to scrap the Tory government's asylum deal as one of his first acts in office.
Let's talk to the former Tory Immigration Minister, Kevin Foster. Kevin, it just won't go away, will it, Rwanda? Here it is, back again with a vengeance, and now they're after even more money from us, because I think we've already given them about £700 million, if my memory serves me correctly, and I think 3 people went there to Rwanda, but voluntarily.
Yeah, the cost of the deal, I think we've already paid direct to Rwanda is about 290 million. There was some other associated costs that are in the figure that you've cited. But yeah, the Rwanda government's looking for payment under the agreement. And the reality is Keir Starmer scrapped this on day one. But since the Labour Party came into office, we've seen the small boat arrivals surge. And you've got to put the costs of asylum hotels and support for each one of those migrants who arrives in Channel against the potential benefit this deal would have had. But as I've said before, it wasn't just Rwanda that was needed to solve the small boats crisis. It was a whole package of measures. And, we can actually, ironically now, see, I think, the US looking at using Rwanda, Denmark looking at using Rwanda, yet Britain, who came up with the idea, has decided a slogan of smash the gangs would be a better outcome.
Now, Kevin, it looks to me like this decision by the Rwandan government to pursue the UK for £50 million is basically as a result of an administrative error. They were saying that they were willing to forego the deal if that's what the new government wanted to, but the new government failed to dot the I's and cross the T's of a contract, which means that they're now facing this penalty. What do you make of that?
Well, it adds insult to injury, doesn't it, for taxpayers listening to all of this. The Labour Party came in with a slogan, not a strategy. Smash the gangs was not a strategy to sort out the Channel. It was a slogan to get people through a general election campaign. And it doesn't surprise me to hear that if this is the case, that there was just sloppiness, even in how they rushed to cancel the deal to appease, let's be honest, chattering classes who are quite happy to see small boat migrants arrive at Dover, just as long as they're not going to be housed near them, as we've seen with some of the objections at Crowborough in relation to the deputy leader of the Green Party. So for me, this is just another sign of really the government didn't have a comprehensive strategy, doesn't have a comprehensive strategy, but now needs to get one. Meanwhile, in the US, let's remind ourselves, southern border crossings are down 95% this year, over the last year. They're at historic lows. So, other countries are managing to deal with problems like this, and that begs the question why the UK isn't.
Kevin, 2 points on that. I mean, America's got a land border with Mexico. It's different with us because we're an island. But secondly, how many people were we realistically going to be able to deport to Rwanda? What was the total? Some suggestions, barely even 250 people. So was it really going to work as a deterrent?
Well, it certainly had an impact, Andrew. We can see from the time it was announced, numbers were going down of arrivals, even before people had actually started to leave to Rwanda. But just on its own, it wouldn't have been the solution. But we can look at Australia and see where they implemented a third country agreement as part of dealing with a similar problem there. And it makes that difference, because what it does, it gives you an answer to the question of what do you do where someone has come to the UK, the country they've left has refused to take them back, France, and the country they are a citizen of is a country that either we cannot deal with or where just point blank refuses, even if we threaten visa sanctions or trade sanctions. You can all work out how many visas we give to places like Eritrea and how much trade we do with them, that threats of sanctions isn't as powerful as it would be, let's say, of a country like India. So that's what it answers that question, is you've got a solution when you decide someone shouldn't be here and you want to, having come from a safe and democratic country, and you want to remove them. That's what it's there for. It has to be used as part of a package of other measures. It should be remembered that, yes, the US southern border is a land border, but the principles are very much the same. And just remember, Donald Trump hasn't just sent people back to Mexico. He's implemented a range of measures to enforce the southern border, and we've seen the outcomes.
It does seem to me that it is a combination of the physical deterrents, the barriers, the borders, the being able to turn boats back, whatever that may be, and the legal reforms, the combination of those two things that makes an effective border policy. I was in Hungary a few weeks ago looking at their southern border with Serbia. Yes, they've got big fences, but they're also legally allowed to push people back across the border if they make it through. Do you think there's now any option in the long term but for the UK to withdraw from the ECHR and to rewrite some of our legislation around detaining and deporting?
Yeah, it must be said, Miriam, it's not just the ECHR. There's things like the Statelessness Convention and the UN Refugee Convention, which are all being gamed by people fundamentally leaving France to come to the UK for economic migration reasons rather than because they couldn't find safety in France. France, a palpably safe and democratic country. So yes, there is a need to rewrite much of the law. I think what will be interesting, particularly linking on to your discussion about what may happen with Keir Starmer earlier, is if we see the Labour Party decide that they are not going to politically die in a ditch over the rights of people to come from France and Belgium to gain the asylum system. And if a new leader decides to take an approach that's much more akin to Australia's Labour Party and than perhaps what we've seen here traditionally, if they want to win the next general election, they're going to have to move away from the idea that they're here to please chattering classes in Camden, not appeal to the Red Wall.
All right, Kevin, that's Kevin Foster, who is a former immigration minister under the last Conservative government, on that extraordinary story that Rwanda is now wants 50 million compensation after Starmer cancelled that deportation deal.
Well, we're getting used to political storms, but there's an actual storm at the moment. Storm Chandra has been battering Britain this morning. I certainly experienced it at 5 o'clock this morning when I left my house.
Strong winds, heavy rain and snow, and it's left a trail of chaos in its path. We can cross live now to Newton Woods in County Down and speak to GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie.
How are you? Yes, I'm actually in the Ards Peninsula in Northern Ireland, and we got the worst of this late last night. Well, about 4 o'clock to half five in the morning. Very, very high winds. They started to die down then, but this torrential downpour came, very, very fine rain on the back of the wind. In fact, 7 o'clock this morning we were out reporting on it, and it was quite wet and stormy to say the very least. But this is the result. We've had trees down, and this is the main road from Newton Ards to Portaferry. It has turned into a river, and it's because the fields are sodden and flooded, and you can see that coming out of there. The fields are now draining in to the roads and turning them quite literally into a river, and this is what drivers have to be really aware of. And actually, if you look in this field beside us, there is thousands and thousands of cabbages in that field that water is emptying out of, so you can only imagine that those cabbages are going to take quite a battering, and that farmer will have to well, bear the cost of that. But definitely over the morning inside Northern Ireland, heavy winds, heavy rain, trees are down, roads are flooded. This is the aftermath. There's power outages, there is also ferries being cancelled, and one of our airports has stopped flying for quite a while this morning. So it'll take a while to get things back together, but it's not unusual. In fact, this day last year we were reporting on the dark hedges and the storms that ripped out the trees. So we fully expect it and are well aware of it, and we're ready for it. Just a bit of caution needed. In fact, this morning a car went off the road right here and got caught down in there in the flood. And the police, you can see them in the distance there, have this road totally closed off. So a bit of traffic disruption, Andrew, but nothing that we can't handle. Just care needs to be taken.
Well, great hat, great coat.
Yeah.
GBN branded. Where do we get one of those?
And he's a great reporter too, is Doogie Beattie.
Absolutely.
Now up next, the Beckhams. Why have they put that apostrophe there, Miriam? Are united, but without Brooklyn. Of course, as Victoria finally breaks her silence on behalf of her family war.
Well, and if you want to avoid a storm, Chandra, and you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure. No worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's unsettled in the UK at the moment and very unsettled across southern parts of Europe. Storm Joseph is bringing some very heavy rain across parts of Portugal, Spain, also Gibraltar as we go through the rest of today and into tomorrow. We're talking 50 to 100 millimetres of rain in just 24 hours. And it's similarly unsettled further east around Italy and neighbouring nations. A huge amount of rain coming, the risk of thunder, also some significant snow building up. More unsettled weather to come through this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
It's 9 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, you'll be thrilled to know the Beckham family has made its first joint public appearance since that extraordinary Instagram post from their son, Brooklyn, which confirmed one of the worst-kept secrets in showbiz. It's a family at war.
Well, on Monday, Sir David and Lady Beckham were joined by 3 of their 4 children as Lady Beckham received a new accolade by becoming a Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters. Aren't knights male? Aren't knights supposed to be male?
Yeah, but I don't think they'd use dame in France. It would be a dame here. Our entertainment editor, Alex Davis, can tell us more. Alex, morning.
Good morning. Yes, it's been a week since Brooklyn drops that explosive statement, and I know all 3 of us have been able to not think of anything else but the Beckham family drama. But yes, this was the biggest first family outing ever since, without Brooklyn, of course. It was David, Victoria, Romeo, Harper, Cruz. They all stepped out in Paris to watch Victoria receive the honour from the French Cultural Ministry. It's basically an honour that recognises contributions to the world of arts and literature. People like Jude Law, Zoe Saldana, Denis Villeneuve have won it previously. But this time it was Victoria's turn. And naturally, ever since she won the award, the family have been rather gushy on social media. Victoria called it an honour and that she was incredibly privileged to have received such an award. She said she thanked the French Minister of Culture for the honour, whereas people like Harper has ended up calling her my biggest role model. Romeo said no one deserves this more than you. And quite interestingly from my part, Cruz and Romeo's girlfriends have come out and done very, very, shall we say, gushy statements towards their potential future mother-in-law. Jackie Apostle, who is going out with Cruz, said, "Congratulations, Victoria. Your drive, creativity, resilience, but most importantly, kindness and respect towards anyone around you are some of the many reasons why you deserve this and more. You lift us all up constantly."
That sounds, Alex, that sounds like the PR wrote that.
Well,
would that be a cynical point of view?
This is my sort of where my cynicism comes in, because following Brooklyn's statement, I fully expected Brand Beckham to come out with a statement saying, "We're aware of the claims, we don't agree with it, we love our son, we won't be commenting any further." They've remained silent on it. And what that has done has whipped up a media frenzy where every comment from every person associated with that family is now a news headline. So call me a skeptic. I don't think Brand Beckham is actually too tarnished by this entire ordeal, and I think they're quite happy.
Alex, I'm so
with
sorry. We're
the
going to have to
circus.
jump in. We're at the top of the hour. Don't comment any further. I think that's good advice for all of them, don't you? Well, don't go anywhere because Keir Starmer's off to China. We're going to be discussing all the latest with that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Storm Chandra is here. It's already brought some very heavy rain and it's going to continue to do so through today, as well as the risk of damaging winds. The strongest winds will be across parts of Northern Ireland. Eastern parts of Northern Ireland have the risk of gusts of around 75 miles per hour and some significant disruption likely. Worth noting elsewhere, as the band of heavy rain pushes its way northwards, we're going to see some significant snow building up over higher ground of parts of northern England and also much of Scotland, and then elsewhere showers following in behind after a very wet night towards the southwest. Temperatures just about getting into double figures towards the south, much colder than this further north, all the while when it's so wet and so windy, well, it's going to feel much colder than those temperatures may suggest. So a wet end to the day across much of central, northern and eastern Scotland. Lots of snow falling and accumulating over the higher ground. That's going to cause some disruption. The strong winds and the heavy rain continues across Northern Ireland for a little while yet. Difficult conditions for the evening rush hour. Meanwhile, plenty of showers then feeding in from the south and west across much of England and Wales. Just some central eastern parts of England having a drier, clearer end to the day. Then as we go overnight, well, we start to see the influence of Storm Chandra clearing away. So the weather will be quietening down. There'll be some dry, clear weather across some central eastern parts of England, and that could allow for a touch of frost perhaps. Elsewhere, some rain towards the northeast of Scotland, some showery rain towards the southwest, and with that, temperatures not dropping as low where we have the cloud and the rain. Then Wednesday, actually, for a large chunk of the country, doesn't look too bad a day. Yes, a frosty start, but there will be some dry, even sunny weather around for many places. The exception being across eastern parts of Scotland, some wet, some wintry weather here, and also across much of Northern Ireland and at times parts of Wales and the southwest, where it will be cloudy and wet at times as well. Temperatures, well, similar to today, but feeling a bit more pleasant out of the rain.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
And it's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 27th of January, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the former Home Secretary Sella Braverman has ended her 30 years as a Conservative. Did she have any nice words for her former party?
When push comes to shove, they go AWOL. No courage, no backbone, no resolve.
Well, it's so long, Suella, from the Tories, but what do you think about reform having yet another Conservative from that last failed government high up in their ranks?
And a Labour rebellion is also growing because 50 furious MPs have written to the Prime Minister asking him to reverse the decision to block Andy Burnham standing as an MP. He probably won't see it, though. He's off to China today.
There seems to be an assumption of racism right from the off, particularly when it's a white police officer and a member of the public from a minority ethnic community.
An important victory for free speech. The High Court rules it was unlawful to suspend the former chairman of the Metropolitan Police Federation for questioning whether the police were institutionally racist. He questioned that while he was on GB News. Rick Pryor spoke to us earlier.
It's been a long, arduous battle, and I think common sense has prevailed, and I think the High Court has come to a very reasoned and sound judgment.
And today is Holocaust Memorial Day. We'll remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who were murdered by the Nazis. But we'll look at why a growing number of schools are not doing the same.
We're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain.
That's the former Mayor of West Midlands, Sir Andy Street, co-launching the political movement Prosper UK to combat the rise of Reform UK. But does it entice you?
And Storm Chandra strikes. Heavy rain and 75-mile-an-hour winds batter Britain. Just put a coat on. Don't take an umbrella with you. It might get turned inside out.
Burnham is a good story that's not going to go away for the Prime Minister. 50 MPs writing to him, that's a lot. I know there's 400 of them, but when you think at least 150 of those are what we call the payroll vote, they're ministers or the minister's advisors, that's quite a large number of MPs. And remember, it only takes 80 to get behind a candidate to trigger a leadership contest, which I think is getting closer and closer.
Well, we're expecting Reform UK to announce their candidate for the by-election this afternoon. I wonder if it'll be a well-known figure or whether it'll be somebody local.
Yeah.
Same with Labour. Are they going to go with somebody well-known, perhaps who lost their seat the last election, or are they going to go with a local hero?
And, of course, the Greens, according to the bookies, are favourites to win. Amazing.
Extraordinary. But Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, who I think is from that area, has decided not to stand. So it'll be interesting to see who goes for it.
Absolutely. As ever, we want to know what you think, so send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. The Chancellor is set to unveil a £300 million support package for pubs after they warned budget tax changes could lead to mass closures, job cuts and price rises. The Treasury is expected to announce the financial relief as soon as today, according to reports. Pubs are expected to receive around £100 million a year until 2029 through additional financial support, but the Chancellor has avoided more fundamental changes to business rates. Other hospitality businesses, such as restaurants, cafes and hotels, are however expected expected to miss out, despite also warning over soaring bills. The Treasury's planned intervention comes after an intensifying backlash from industry bosses and MPs over impending tax increases. In other news today, heavy rain and strong winds are hitting the UK as Storm Chandra brings weather warnings, flooding and travel disruption. Hundreds of schools are closed in Northern Ireland. More than 24 flights are cancelled at Belfast City Airport and train services are disrupted across parts of the UK. National Rail's warning poor weather may affect South Western Railway services until the end of the day. Chandra is the third major storm to hit the UK this month. Elsewhere, it's understood around 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter objecting to the decision to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing in a forthcoming parliamentary by-election. They've written to Sir Keir Starmer to warn the decision is a real gift to Reform UK, as polling suggests Burnham may be Labour's very best chance at winning the vacant Gorton and Denton seat. The signatories said there was no legitimate reason to block Burnham and asked for Labour's NEC to re-evaluate. The Prime Minister said allowing him to contest the seat would have diverted Labour's resources away from other important elections. Reform UK will announce its candidate for the contest today at a press conference in the constituency. Sir Keir Starmer says he will not be forced to choose between relations with the US or China ahead of the first visit of a British leader to Beijing in 8 years. The Prime Minister is saying the UK would maintain close ties with the US on business, security and defence, but added that sticking your head in the sand and ignoring China wouldn't be sensible. In the interview with Bloomberg News, he said the visit to the world's second largest economy could bring significant opportunities for British companies. The trip comes days after the UK approved controversial plans for a vast new Chinese embassy in London. The long-delayed decision was made despite opponents warning it could be used as a base for Chinese spying. The Housing Secretary, Steve Reed, spoke to GB News this morning.
China's also the second biggest economy on the planet. 370,000 British jobs depend on it. We're not going to throw those people on the scrap heap and tell them they can't have a job anymore. We have to trade with China, but we do it eyes wide open. National security is always paramount, as it should be.
Elsewhere, the Conservatives have been forced to withdraw suggestions that Sella Braverman defected to Reform UK due to bad mental health. The former Home Secretary became the latest high-profile defection to Nigel Farage's party yesterday. At the launch of Veterans for Reform, she claimed to no longer felt politically at home with the Conservatives. Shadow Business and Trade Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
I think that was wrong. I went into politics after a career in business because of people's ideas, ideas about how we can make our country great again, how today we can help the myriad of small businesses on our high street in the face of Labour's attack on business rates. So it shouldn't be about people's individual characteristics. I think it was wrong. The party withdrew that and said it was a mistake.
In other news, ground rents will be capped at £250 a year for leaseholders in England and Wales, the Prime Minister's announced. Sir Keir Starmer made the announcement in a TikTok video early this morning. The change will come into force from 2028. The shake-up will see many leaseholders save more than £4,000 over the course of their lease, with more than 5 million leaseholders and future homeowners benefiting from stronger control, powers and protections, the government says. They also say it's overhauling a dysfunctional and unfair system. And today marks Holocaust Memorial Day, commemorating the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust alongside victims of other genocides. Today is the 81st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the day to honour those who suffered and died, ensuring their stories are not forgotten. One Holocaust survivor who hid in a cellar to escape persecution said it was comforting to know that his son would continue to tell his story. 87-year-old Paul Sven was born to a Jewish family in Budapest in February of 1938. The theme of this year's HMD is Bridging Generations, highlighting the role that younger people will play in preserving memories of the Holocaust. Those are the latest headlines. More news in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3685 and €1.1524. The price of gold is £3,725.68 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,188 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club. proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, good morning, welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Lots getting in touch, I suspect. Quite a few on Sella Braverman, I bet you.
Yes, interestingly, people are quite keen on the Rwanda scheme, which of course Sella did champion.
She did.
In government and out of it. Molly says the Rwanda scheme would have stopped the boats if they'd started to use it. Of course, this is on the story that not only did Labour cancel the contract with the Rwanda government, but they didn't do it properly, and so now the Rwandan government are suing the UK for £50 million.
Ironic when you consider the government is led by a lawyer.
Indeed.
Why thought they might have got that one right.
They get the paperwork correct?
Yeah.
Colin says Reform may be recruiting MPs from a failed Tory party, but they now have a proper leader with direction. He's talking about Kemi Badenoch or Nigel Farage, I wonder.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no doubt her position is much stronger, and you don't. When you're in Westminster, you don't hear anybody talking about a leadership challenge, even if the local elections are dire in May, which they could be. Absolutely. She's there. The only one they're talking about is a leadership challenge against the Prime Minister, and that is, I think, that has grown since his decision to block Burnham.
The problem for Kemi Badenoch is she is trying to take the Conservative Party in a much more conservative direction, but the most recent defections from the Conservative Party to Reform are all the most conservative people on the right of the party that probably could have helped her carry through those policies. And the accusation now is that she's left with people on the left of the party who don't back her. So she's in a very difficult position. Yeah,
people like Jeremy Hunt.
Indeed. And
a very experienced politician, but much more on what I would call the Lib Dem side of the party.
Yeah, and if she's going to carry through her policies, she needs people within the party to support them. Difficult times.
Now, in a big victory for free speech, the High Court has ruled the Police Federation unlawfully suspended 2 police officers for questioning, how dare they have done this, questioning if the police really are institutionally racist.
Well, Richard Cook and Rick Pryor were punished for comments made on GB News and social media.
In his interview with this channel in October 24, Mr Pryor suggested that officers were worried about being labelled racist while patrolling certain parts of London.
There's a striking crisis of confidence at the moment within policing in general, and certainly within the Metropolitan Police, whereby officers are withdrawing from any kind of proactive policing for fear of falling foul of the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, or a vexatious or malicious complaint. There seems to be an assumption of racism right from the off, particularly when it's a white police officer and a member of the public from a minority ethnic community.
But the High Court has now ruled that the Police Federation was wrong to suspend him for those comments. And Rick spoke to us on Britain's Newsroom earlier.
I think there's a chilling effect that my suspension and ultimate removal from office and Richard Cook's suspension, removal from office has had on other chairs. And I think that people are going to be very hesitant moving forwards in terms of expressing honest views in the public domain.
Well, we can now speak with the Labour MP for Pendle and Clitheroe, Jonathan Hinder, who's also a former police inspector. Jonathan, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the programme. Do you welcome this judgment from the High Court?
I do, definitely. And I think it's worth just explaining to your viewers exactly what the Police Federation is. It's a staff association, which means it's the closest thing that police officers have to a union. I was a member of the Police Federation, a subscriber to the Police Federation throughout my service. It's the only staff association that police are legally allowed to join. And what has happened here is the elected officials, the officers who are elected by their fellow officers to represent their interests, are essentially being purged by an unelected chief executive who, in fact, took advantage of the loose inadequate governance arrangements at the Police Federation to essentially self-appoint himself as the chief executive, having worked there for a number of years previously. He's paying himself £700,000 a year. So it's not very surprising that when there are dissenting voices, both in terms of the actual stance of the Police Federation, but also those governance arrangements themselves, he doesn't like it very much. And we've seen what's happened to Rick Pryor in the Met. We've seen what's happened to Rich Cook in the West Midlands. And there are other such instances. Since I've been uncovering this issue, I've had many police officers get in touch with me who've had involvement with the Fed or are still involved with the Fed, saying they have similar concerns. So I think this is a crisis for the entire Police Federation and the governance of the representation that police are allowed to have. So I'm really pleased by the judgment, because after all, what they were saying was reflecting their members' concerns, but it's a much broader issue, and I'm pushing the government to actually give police officers the opportunity to join an alternative staff association, because as long as you have this monopoly, if these elected officers are being purged, the officers haven't really got anywhere else to go. So it really is time for action on this. I'm pleased by the judgment, but we need more.
And Jonathan, whether it's in issues like the grooming gangs, we know there was a failure of the state to take action against the grooming gangs, often because the gang members were men of Pakistani origin. The police were rightly criticised for their role in all of this. If people from the Police Federation can't raise concerns of police officers about the fact that they feel very constrained doing policing in certain parts of London where there is a large ethnic population, where else can that concern be voiced?
Well, exactly. That's exactly the point. I mean, what Rick Pryor was doing was reflecting the members' views, which he was elected to do. And, you know, you played a short clip of what he said, and he's said similar things before in relation to particular instances. He's saying it in quite a measured way. You know, this is not someone who is denying that the police have had real historical issues with racism and sexism and so forth. No one is denying that. What we're saying is that these people should be allowed to speak on behalf of the rank and file. And I think one of the reasons that the morale is so low in policing now is those voices have not been allowed to be heard. So it's really important that police officers have a democratic, this is the important thing, democratic staff association that they can actually have their voices heard through. And you know, this idea that police officers' subscriptions, they pay £25 a month, and they are going towards paying what is essentially a top union official, if you like, it's not quite a union, £700,000.
That's a fat cat salary.
This is a scandal. I mean, it's more than that, isn't it, Andrew? I mean, it's just stratospheric. And to think that hard-working police officers who are paying to get representation are paying for this man who has never done policing and is purging those who are standing up for the rank and file to be paid £700,000 a year is an absolute scandal. So I've said to the government repeatedly, we need to act on this. Often the response is, but it's for the Police Federation to sort out. But as you can hear me explaining, if the elected officers are purged, then how can the organisation, without intervention from the Home Office, reform itself?
Can we just ask you one question before we let you go? It's on the front page of the Times today. Labour fears stumbling to third in the by-election. 50 Labour MPs have written to Starmer saying he should reverse the decision on blocking Andy Burnham from standing in that by-election. What's your position?
I don't want to get bogged down in the personalities, but what I would say to my colleagues is, let's take a step back and think about why we are contemplating losing one of our safest parliamentary seats in the country in a by-election to reform, why we are openly discussing the possibility that reform could win the Greater Manchester mayoral election, if we were to have one of those. You know, put the personalities aside, why is it that we think we are so unpopular that people would vote for a party which doesn't really have a proper economic agenda, but is riding a wave of resentment against the two main parties, particularly on immigration? And I've spoken about it before, but we're 18 months in, And yes, there's some good news on legal migration, but the people have the right to expect their government to control their borders. As long as we don't do that, people will keep reaching for other solutions. So let's not focus so much on the personalities. Let's think about why we're losing some of our safest seats, or potentially losing some of our safest seats, to what is essentially a Thatcherite version 2, as you were discussing about Suella just now.
Jonathan Hinder, food for thought.
Very good.
I wonder if Keir Starmer's listening. Thank you,
Very
as ever, for joining us this morning, Jonathan.
Always direct, isn't he? And a loss to the police service, actually.
Yeah.
He really is. Now, we've got to read this very long, technical statement from the Police Federation, so we're going to divvy it up here. We consider this judgment to be flawed and will appeal. This case is about process, not about the substance of the complaints or whether or not we were right to take action.
And it is vital that we continue to stand up for victims and challenge poor behaviour, particularly on matters of race and discrimination.
I think he's got a great point, that Legby. That salary of £700,000 is staggering.
Paid from ordinary coppers.
Coppers on the beat. We don't see enough of those. They're subscriptions.
Yeah.
And he's never been a police officer.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's astonishing.
How's it allowed?
But we've seen so many unions and institutions go woke like that, haven't they? Even though their members don't necessarily think like that.
I can't think of another trade union that pays its general secretary anything like £700,000. But we'll have a look.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Have a look.
And we'll share it with you. Time now for the great British giveaway.
Don't apply if you're a union boss. You don't need it. And you've got just a few days left to see how you could become our biggest cash winner to date with an incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
There's only 4 days left to see how you could win, as our biggest cash prize to date is up for grabs, an incredible £85,000, and it really could be yours. That's tax-free cash to spend all throughout 2026. What would you do with £85,000? But you have to hurry, as lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, after another defection from the Conservatives to Reform UK, are they just becoming a party of Tory outsiders?
We'll be going through that and more with Kevin Maguire, who is my podcast partner, Piers versus Maguire, and of course Dr. Rennie Hunterkamp for round 2. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
11:24, Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK with Andrew and Miriam. They're here, the panel, round two. GP, Rennie Honderkamp, and often Daily Mail columnist, I might say.
Thank you.
And Kevin Maguire, who's never been a Daily Mail columnist because we wouldn't have him, because he writes for the Daily Mail.
But I do a podcast
you
with
do a very good
Piers versus Maguire.
Which is doing very, very well. Plug, 13 amp plug.
Yeah.
Shall we start with the Conservatives' response to Sella Braverman's defection? I mean, obviously there's going to be some sour grapes there, but to say that she's in poor mental health was a bit of a faux pas, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, did nobody think about that for just 10 seconds before they actually put it out? You just do not attack somebody's mental health in any circumstances. Even if Suella had spoken openly about mental health issues, you'd still tread very, very carefully. So to do this is just, I think, another shot in their own foot.
And Rennie, they're saying it was some junior functionary did it. Hang on. Yeah. Somebody higher up the food chain would have... I mean, a junior functionary wouldn't have even known about her mental health issues.
It was done in anger, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it was just done in sheer anger, and it shows, and bitterness. And I think, actually, they will just turn off even more of their voters with that.
It was unpleasant, Kevin. I mean... Oh, yeah. I don't know her very well, but Miriam knew her very well, because she's one of the nicest women in the Commons.
Yeah, if she hadn't spoken about her mental health, it's also a breach of her privacy, and I would have thought...
Even if it was true, which I don't think it is.
She could have a legal case if she liked.
That is true.
And who signed off the statement? Because I can't, you know, it's always...
Saying it's nothing to do with the leader.
Yeah. Well, who signed it off?
Well, it has to be the party
chairman.
chairman.
That's, you know...
Who got into a row with Reform.
He did, over comparing them to Nazis, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they're saying it was, you know, a draft statement and a junior...
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right, well, just... If we accept it is there, it's something wrong with the culture when you're doing that. But, of course, they were very successful in their drive-by shootings of Nadim Zawahiri, the former Chancellor, and Robert Jenrick, the former...
They blew up their defection.
They did. They very well. With Zawahiri, look, he didn't get a peerage, so he's gone off in a huff, and remember his tax affairs and the £5 million he had to pay. And then Jenrick, it is, sacked him 5 hours before he was going, saying, no, he's never a team player. You're lucky to have him now reform because he'll try and destabilise you. Now, you can have a good political attack on Sella Braverman. There we are, Nigel Farage is saying we want experience of government. Yeah, her experience of government was getting sacked twice as Home Secretary. One of them by Liz Truss, who was only here in the blink of an eye. I mean, quite some feat to be sacked by Liz Truss because she wasn't around.
She was also Attorney General, and the point Farage is making, to be fair, she has got experience of government, which nobody in Reform has. Well, but she knows how... She's been in a civil meeting with a civil servant. She knows that what she's up against with the blob.
Yeah, it's about knowing how the system works.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been there, haven't we, where we've taken on jobs that are a bit big for us in the past. Yeah. And you go in and you think, how on earth does this place work? So they need some people on the ground who can go in and know how it works. And they've got to do it, unfortunately.
But I think most employers would not want to take on somebody who's been sacked from the same job twice. I think little alarm bells would be ringing.
For that, Kevin, Kevin, would be that Sella has consistently stood for all the positions that Reform now inhabit. She's never deviated from that. She did get sacked for holding those positions, which are now Tory party positions. So if anyone's been consistent, much more consistent than, for example,
but she didn't get sacked for that. She got sacked the first time with Trust because she was a security breach, which the then Tory chair, who's in Reform, thought she had to go for as well. And then the second one is she's in charge of the Metropolitan Police and she's accusing it of bias and couldn't back it up.
Do you think, I mean, I know there are some people senior in Reform who are uncomfortable now about the number of, I'm not going to use the expression has been is pejorative, but ex-Tories, it's becoming like an island maroon for former Tories. It's going to jar with some people who think we don't want Tory-like or Tory failures.
For sure, because don't forget, Labour did not come to power because people wanted them. They were so angry with the Tories.
That's right, because they screwed up so badly.
If you start just populating Reform only with Tories, you're going to absolutely
part of that failure.
Send those away. But they do need some, but I do think the edge of that group is now coming somewhere. They need to start thinking about how many more of these we're going to take. I think taking Zahawi was a big mistake. I really do. I think he stands for
because of his tax affairs.
Everything. He was the vaccine minister.
Don't forget as well his expenses when he came on his parliamentary expenses to heat the stables.
Just as we were bringing in the spare room tax, so he had the spare groom tax.
Yes, I was amazed he survived the stable row.
Yeah, and I don't know why they did that. I can understand Jenrick and I can understand Suella. I think whether Jenrick has changed his position over the years, he has changed it. He's been very vocal. Suella has always supported these parts of Reform. So I think they're probably two good takes. I think they now need to think very, very carefully about who else. They could say goodbye to Zahawi, they could say goodbye to Nadine Dorries, to be fair. I'm not sure what they add to the party, but I think those two are important, and you're right. I think if they take many more, there's a point where they will be the Tories.
Kevin, what's happened to the much-vaunted Labour defector he told us about? Because he was...
If he or she existed.
Have they changed their mind?
Yeah, or they never really exist.
Permanently? If you can't pause permanently, it's a pause or it isn't.
And also, is it not... Look, unless it's somebody who's a serving MP, a sitting MP, it's going to be pretty poor, because of the 8 Reform MPs, 5 were originally elected as Conservatives, and the other 3, including Farage himself, were once Conservatives in the party, but not in Parliament.
I think politically it was a mistake of Farage to actually talk about it before it happened. I think telling the world there's a Labour MP coming on Tuesday...
He was boasting, wasn't he?
He was boasting, and I think Labour then looked around and started bullying anyone who might be
I don't think it was never a sitting MP or even a parliamentarian, I don't think. Perhaps the tactic is to encourage other people to come out of the woodwork, but if that's true,
because a lot of people thought it was going to be Kate Hoey, who was a Labour minister many years ago, but she doesn't even sit on the Labour bench in the House of Lords.
Left Labour 6 years ago,
Yeah, she's not a Labour...
But the fact Braverman's gone over, the fact Jenrick has gone over, the fact that 5 of the 8 MPs were Conservative MPs makes it less likely a Labour person will go over.
We've got more members of Liz Truss's cabinet now than Kemi Badenoch. That's quite something.
It is.
Not sure that's a badge of honour.
That's something to boast about, but nevertheless.
Not sure that's a great badge of honour.
Well, they need to spell out their policies very, very clearly, don't they, and demonstrate that any of these Tories that come over are absolutely committed to enacting reforms policy.
Well, you mean Nigel's?
Because now got the majority of the Conservative MPs who defied the whip over Rwanda to try to make the bill stronger.
We didn't get a chance to talk Rwanda because
that's not consistency.
His eyes flash red when you just hear that.
What an expensive failure.
I have to save it for next week. Thanks, panel.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Well, we've got your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories this hour. The Chancellor is set to unveil a £300 million support package for pubs after they warned budget tax changes could lead to mass closures, job cuts and price rises. The Treasury's planned intervention comes after an intensifying backlash from industry bosses and MPs over impending tax increases. Elsewhere, it's understood around 50 Labour MPs have signed a letter objecting to the decision to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing in a forthcoming parliamentary by-election.
Elsewhere, ground rents will be capped at £250 a year for leaseholders in England and Wales, the Prime Minister's announced. The government says the shake-up will see many leaseholders save more than £4,000 over the course of their lease, with more than 5 million leaseholders and future homeowners benefiting from stronger control, powers and protections. And heavy rain and strong winds are hitting the UK at the moment as Storm Chandra brings weather warnings, flooding and travel disruption. Those are the headlines for now. More from me at midday.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. They're here in the studio.
Are you going to have a punch-up on air again?
I don't know if we ever have.
Oh.
We have. I don't think we have.
Not actually physically, surely.
No.
You've jousted.
Just a little jab here and there, but no,
Yeah.
nothing that anyone would see on camera.
Now,
what goes on under the desk is quite enough.
Nobody else's business.
None of that, please. Now, what's the big story for you guys?
It is a busy day of news. We're expecting a live announcement during our time from the Treasury. What is going to happen for pubs? They've been teasing this for weeks and weeks, dare I say it, months. And pubs have been told they're getting some sort of help, but they don't know what sort of help
will it be
they
the
have.
Chancellor, or is she already on a plane to China with the Prime Minister?
The Chancellor's off to China. It'll be a junior Treasury Minister.
I think because if she's associated with it, it would just be doomed because she's so unpopular.
Speaking of which, of course, they are on their way to China with all these shenanigans that are happening here in the UK. A lot of people asking whether Keir Starmer should really be doing that, given what's going on in his party. But underneath all that as well, we have the Chinese hacking of phones. We discovered that lots of the top MPs had their phones hacked between 2022 and 2024, which is like quite recent, yet we're still going on with the super embassy. And we've got all the chat about Andy Burnham, the civil war that's going on within the Labour Party. Was it really the right thing to do?
Not going away, that, is it?
I wanted to run in with the Chinese embassy. Did you? I did. I was president of the Durham Union at the time.
Did you take them your whiteboard?
I'd organised a debate at my university on is China a threat to the West?
Yes.
And one of the people that I'd invited to speak was a former Miss World Canada supermodel, Anastasia Lin. Now, the Chinese didn't want her to come to speak in the debate because she was a dissident. She was banned from China. Her family had been excluded from China. And they got the Students and Scholars Organisation to launch this most massive protest, but it didn't stop there. I got hurled out of a tutorial to go and take a phone conversation from the Chinese embassy.
Never.
Really?
Where they started threatening Britain's terms of trade with China. This was just in the days after Brexit.
I hope you leaked the story.
I absolutely did. I leaked it to BuzzFeed at the time, which was a popular website.
Your first scoop.
Well, I think universities must be a very different sort of thing in China.
Yes.
Because they must be linked with the state in some way. And I was like, you do realise I'm just a student at university. I'm not some sort of state apparatchik. And yet there we go.
Was that your first scoop?
I suppose it must have been.
Yeah, good story.
And we've got one other thing we want to talk about is Rwanda. Turns out that we may well owe them 50 million because apparently Keir Starmer hasn't really signed off the contract.
You'd have thought, being a lawyer, he might have even got that right.
Well, he's got a lot of
forensic
things wrong, hasn't he?
Certainly has.
Forensic.
Amazing.
Hardly.
All that and more up at midday, but up next, could the Tory politicians Sir Andy Street and Ruth Davidson restore your faith in the Tory party? We'll see.
We're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain.
Well, they say they're targeting the politically homeless voters. They want to tackle the rise of Reform UK. Well, Andy Street is joining us live next. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. We will continue to see impacts from Storm Chandra as we go through the rest of today. The low pressure system itself is currently making its way northwards up the western side of Ireland, and it's bringing heavy rain, yes, some hill snow and some strong damaging winds. We've already had very heavy rain across parts of the southwest. That's now making its way north and eastwards across much of the rest of the country, with some snow over higher ground of Scotland and North northern England. Also, strong, damaging winds. Eastern parts of Northern Ireland in particular, we have an amber warning out because we could see gusts of around 75 miles per hour coming in from the southeast. Temperatures are going to be a bit below average towards the north and feeling pretty unpleasant with that wet, that wintry and that windy weather around. So a wet and snowy end to the day across central and northeastern parts of Scotland. Significant hill snow building up, 10-20 centimetres in some places. A bit dry but cloudy across more southern western parts of Scotland. Staying wet and very windy across Northern Ireland. Really difficult conditions through the evening rush hour. Meanwhile, across much of Wales, southern and southwest England, there will be showery bursts of rain and strong blustery winds. And this rain could be quite heavy, could be some rumbles of thunder. Then overnight, whilst there will be some wet and wintry weather towards the northeast of Scotland and a few showers continuing towards the southwest. Elsewhere, actually a lot of dry and clear weather. As a result, we're going to see temperatures dropping close to, if not below freezing in a fair few spots. And that brings a significant ice risk as we go through tomorrow morning because of wet surfaces then dropping to sub-zero. Through the day itself, however, actually a fairly fine day for many places, even some decent sunshine on offer in quite a few spots. The exception being across the northeast of Scotland, where it's going to be quite cloudy, wet and wintry at times, and a few outbreaks of rain here and there as well. Temperatures for many similar or maybe a touch up on today. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we've got a scoop here because we have got the architect of a new centre-right group which has been launched within the Conservative Party. It's called Prosper UK, and they want to take reform voters back. So Andy Street and Ruth Davidson behind the idea. Andy was the mayor of Greater Birmingham, West Midlands. And Ruth, of course, was the Tory leader in Scotland.
Hello. So today we're launching Prosper UK, a new movement, you might say a movement at the centre-right of politics, that's going to address the big issues facing Britain. We reject the idea as well that the next general election is about a simple choice between Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. It has to be a choice that favours the Conservative Party.
Well, joining us now, we've got Prosper UK's co-chair and the former mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street. Andy, good morning. Welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. We've seen a little clip of what you're doing there with Ruth Davidson. Tell us a bit more about Prosper UK and who you're aiming it at.
So it is a movement, that's right, and it is led by Conservatives. We're not fudging that in any way, but a big presence as well for business people, because we do think, it's really important that the business community comes to look for solutions. And what we're saying is that there are actually a huge number of people, 7 million people, who identify themselves as centre and centre-right voters, but say that at the moment no party represents them. So what we want to do is find the ideas, the solutions to actually give those people confidence for the future. That's the idea.
Where did you get the 7 million figure from?
Yeah, so we engaged More in Common, which, as you will know, is probably one of the most respected polling organisations. Big piece of work. 13,000 people took part in our survey, so a really serious piece. And it was them who gave us that data. So it's fascinating, isn't it? They're probably people who might have voted Conservative in the past, drifted away. Some large number of Lib Dem voters who don't actually feel their party's making progress. And, of course, some who lent their vote to the Labour Party and are now very disappointed. And some who are just disengaged. And what they all say, actually, is that there are new challenges now. Britain is really challenged. We don't want to rerun the old arguments of 2016 about Brexit, but we want to say, how are we going to give
practical solutions to the issues that really currently face us.
Isn't some of it a bit bland?
No.
I mean, hang on, I'm going to read a sentence here. Individual freedom tempered by social responsibility. Well, anyone would agree to that.
So,
I mean, reform would say that.
So we've talked about a lot of principles at the start of this, and we've talked about sound money, we've talked about internationalism, working with our allies, we've talked about making work pay, and if you look at what's alarming a lot of these people in that 7 million group, the fact that work doesn't pay at the moment is clearly one of the issues. And we've also talked about the overriding import of getting growth, and this just enables me to describe how we're going to go about it, because we all know the Labour government said that, but they've not achieved it. So our job is to do the hard work, get out there around the country with businesses, put practical solutions. So if you say at the beginning it's just at principles and values, I'd accept that, and we've got to get to really hard-nosed choices.
I suppose some people on the right of the Conservative Party or in Reform would say that you're chasing a group of voters that doesn't really exist. Of course, there are people who feel politically homeless at the moment. We're outside of a general election period. But if you look at what happens to the Conservative vote in 2019, which was obviously peak Tory vote, most of the votes that were lost in 2024 went to Reform. Just 7% of those votes that were lost went to the Lib Dems. Chasing a Lib Dem vote is not an electoral winning strategy.
No, I disagree with you, actually, because if you look at this is why the research is so important. This is a very big pool of people. Just to give you the numbers, Andrew said 7 million, 6.9 million, so less than that, was the total Conservative vote in 2024.
But how many
so
of those people have ever voted Conservative in the past?
Or a lot of them have voted Conservative in the past and have now been lost.
Since 2016. That's when the big realignment happened.
Or they voted Conservative in 2010, 2015, 2017. But those in 2019, I accept. More of them have gone to Reform, but this is actually about saying all of those people. But there's a wider point than just the numbers here. The wider point than the numbers is the Conservative Party has won elections when it has a broad-based appeal.
So you'll still want people to vote Conservative, but you're trying to change the way the Conservative Party projects itself and its policy.
Yeah, the read my lips moment is we are all Conservatives.
Right,
We're not fudging that. We
Would you
want
say,
Kemi Badenoch to be Prime Minister.
I'm not sure people watching would regard Lord Heseltine, who's on your...
Yep.
He's not even in the Tory party, or they kicked him out.
He kicked out, I think he came back, actually.
Did he?
But, you know, if you take some of the names on that...
He spent 30 years slagging off the Tory party. Heseltine.
He still believes in the Conservative Party. There's no question about that. And if you go through all the names on our list of supporters, many of them have been really in the front line of Conservative politics for decades. Probably the best Chancellor we ever had. Ken Clarke's name is there. One of the most diligent, thoughtful Foreign Secretaries, Malcolm Rifkin's name is there. So there are all sorts of real big beasts of the Conservative Party. One of the most socially liberal education secretaries, Justine Greening, is there, thinking about social mobility. So we're in very good company here.
I suppose other think tanks like Onward, for example, would say that if the Conservative Party loses its right wing, it's lost everything, and it's won the centrists in the past by having a solid right wing and bringing the centrists with them. So on something like strong defence, you say you want strong defence, law and order, would you therefore support leaving the ECHR and deporting 100,000 people a year, which is what Kemi Badenoch says she'll do?
ECHR is not a defence issue, so let's just take another aspect.
Well, it's a borders issue, strong defence and secure borders.
Secure borders. So we will, and this is one of the interesting things about this member. We are not just going to go back to what you might call the centrist positions of 2016. We do not want to rerun all of that. I said we would find the solutions for the practical issues we face now. So just to give one on defence, how are we going to afford to rearm that 3.5%? And when we spend that money, A, where's it coming from? But B, how are we going to make sure it's spent in Britain, not just import American product? So that's a really tough issue for the city to think about, how it's going to be funded. And that's what I mean about the current issues that we've got to come for new answers.
Fascinating. And just in 10 seconds, do you want to keep Kemi Badenoch as Tory leader?
Yes. That is crystal clear in our stuff yesterday. Yes. One-word answer.
Decisive.
Fantastic.
Sir Andy Street, the former Mayor of West Midlands. And your group is called?
It's called Prosper UK. And if you'd like to go on the website to sign up, prosperuk.com.
There we are.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to the studio. Really good to see you.
Britain's been hit by Storm Chandra today, so if you're in search of some holiday sun, we can't blame you.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's unsettled in the UK at the moment and very unsettled across southern parts of Europe. Storm Joseph is bringing some very heavy rain across parts of Portugal, Spain, also Gibraltar as we go through the rest of today and into tomorrow. We're talking 50 to 100 millimetres of rain in just 24 hours. And it's similarly unsettled further east around Italy and neighbouring nations. A huge amount of rain coming, the risk of thunder, also some significant snow building up. More unsettled weather to come through this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Today on GB News, we'll be marking Holocaust Memorial Day. Earlier this morning, the Prime Minister welcomed a Holocaust survivor, Marla Tribich, to the Cabinet this morning. Let's take a listen.
Marla, let me welcome you again to Cabinet for what is a very special privilege for us as the Cabinet, because you are the first Holocaust survivor ever to address the Cabinet in this country. And so it really is quite an incredible occasion.
What happened to them is indescribable. They were murdered in the most horrific way, shot into open pits in Krakow forest. My father and brother were deported to Buchenwald. I was sent with my 5-year-old cousin Anne, first to Ravensbrück and then to Bergen-Belsen. I later learned that my father was murdered while trying to escape a death march just days before liberation. In the camps, we were stripped naked, shaved, put through freezing cold showers, and even given the prisoner garb. When we looked at each other, we barely recognized each other. We all looked the same.
Well, that's a piece of political history. That's the first time ever a Holocaust survivor has addressed a British cabinet. She was called Marla Trivich, very moving, very powerful. And fair play to Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to do, because we know there's been a very worrying and shocking increase in anti-Semitism in this country, especially since the Gaza massacre back on October the 7th in 2024.
And Starmer, of course, done a lot to purge anti-Semitism from the Labour Party, including kicking people out of the NEC, which is the board that stopped Andy Burnham from standing. But nevertheless, Keir Starmer has been credited with...
Well, he kicked Jeremy Corbyn out of the Labour Party for his response to that report into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party by the Equalities and Human Rights Commission.
That's right. So he has been ruthless in rooting
We
out...
often criticise the Prime Minister, but on this occasion, well done, Prime Minister. That's it for Britain's Newsroom. Next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. See you tomorrow.
Oh, what a shame Tom's not here. Listen, coming up, of course, we're going to be looking at the whole Andy Burnham scenario. 50 MPs have signed a letter saying they want the NEC to reconsider, but it is unlikely that's going to happen. Keir Starmer's at the helm of that. Speaking of him, he's actually on his way to China with Rachel Reeves, and during our show, we're likely to find out what on earth will be happening with business rates relief. So stay with us, but first, an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Storm Chandra is here. It's already brought some very heavy rain, and it's going to continue to do so through today, as well as the risk of damaging winds. The strongest winds will be across parts of Northern Ireland. Eastern parts of Northern Ireland have the risk of gusts of around 70, 75 miles per hour, and some significant disruption likely. Worth noting elsewhere, as the band of heavy rain pushes its way northwards, we're going to see some significant snow building up over higher ground of parts of northern England and also much of Scotland, and then elsewhere showers following in behind after a very wet night towards the southwest. Temperatures just about getting into double figures towards the south, much colder than this further north, all the while when it's so wet and windy, well, it's going to feel much colder than those temperatures may suggest. So a wet end to the day across much of central, northern and eastern Scotland. Lots of snow falling and accumulating over the higher ground. That's going to cause some disruption. The strong winds and the heavy rain continues across Northern Ireland for a little while yet. Difficult conditions for the evening rush hour. Meanwhile, plenty of showers then feeding in from the south and west across much of England and Wales. Just some central eastern parts of England having a drier, clearer end to the day. Then as we go overnight, well, we start to see the influence of Storm Chandra clearing away. So the weather will be quietening down. There'll be some drier, clear weather across some central eastern parts of England, and that could allow for a touch of frost perhaps. Elsewhere, some rain towards the northeast of Scotland. Some showery rain towards the southwest, and with that, temperatures not dropping as low where we have the cloud and the rain. Then Wednesday, actually, for a large chunk of the country, doesn't look too bad a day. Yes, a frosty start, but there will be some dry, even sunny weather around for many places, the exception being across eastern parts of Scotland, some wet, some wintry weather here, and also across much of Northern Ireland and at times parts of Wales and the southwest, where it will be cloudy and wet at times as well. Temperatures, well, similar to today, but feeling a bit more pleasant out of the rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th.